There we are. Hello, everybody. Let me just set up my live chat on the desktop. Let's see. Oh, let me move the camera so I can see the desktop. Hey, Gabby. Going all right. Just setting up the live chat behind you, or behind me, behind the device that's filming this. And I'm seeing a lot of ads. Where can I get to it? And I'm going to have to switch screens anyhow. 4 people. Let's get it going. Minute and 20 seconds into it. If you're watching on the replay, you may want to fast forward through the first couple of minutes just so we can get a group in here. It's always more fun with a group. Oh, thanks for the thumbs up. Look at that beautiful green screen with Tucson and Nancy's house behind me. That desert landscape is just awesome. Definitely the opposite of what I have here in Los Angeles. A concrete jungle with palm trees. It is so beautiful. I can see why she wanted to stay there. You know, I've heard a lot of negative things about Tucson, but that could totally be not true. I guess it just depends on, like in any city, where you live and what your point of view is. And LA has certainly had their fair share of break-ins the past few weeks. We're going to talk about Nancy Guthrie today, day number 85. Just want a few more people to come in. It is getting scary, Kathy. Especially for myself, being a single woman here. But I'm ready just in case. 11 people. Let's get it up a little bit. Maybe you guys can send me red hearts, the little smiley faces. I'll probably get some hate comments on the replay going, will you just get started? No, I don't want to see a joke. This is a very serious topic. Just going to be my own mod today for a while. Hey, 16 people in here. Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, wherever you're coming in from. I'm April Davis, PI. And what is the date here? It is April 26, 2026. I can't believe the month is almost over. Welcome in. Yeah, I'm a licensed private investigator in the state of California, mostly retired at this point due to medical issues. And I've been doing a live stream crime series on Nancy Guthrie. Hey, Kermudge! You know, I'm going to watch your new video because I love the thumbnail. It's the thumbnail that has attracted me to it. Remember, everybody, Kermudge is a professional YouTuber here. He actually gets views on his videos. I think I have started to conquer the live format, Kermudge, but the video end of it, which is where you get your viewers from, I haven't been able to figure that out yet, so I'm getting a little discouraged, Kermudge. Say hello to Sarah for me, Kermudge. Yeah, I want to talk about Nancy Guthrie. It's day number 85, and I know it's Sunday, so we're not going to have a lot of breaking news regarding that front. I guess the FBI and Pima County sheriffs are taking a vacation or a Sunday day off. Maybe they went to church today. I don't know. I did this live yesterday, and during the live, I've noticed that less and less people are coming in because this topic's becoming not interesting to people. But surprisingly, after I went live, throughout the evening and this morning, I received so far 127 comments on yesterday's video. Oh, that's too bad, Harley, because I just went to the dentist. The joys of monetization. Oh no, gosh. I'm just, I can't even get started today. Yeah, in person, my teeth don't look this yellow just for some reason on camera. Maybe I should go to the drugstore and buy one of those little painty things that you put on before you go to sleep at night. I just saw the dentist and he says you're fine. Oh, gosh. Okay, so I got 127 comments on last night's video, and happily, I think it was a new viewer, I assume, I have not seen her before, came in, and she is local to Nancy. She actually lives in the Catalina foothills, and it was really cool to chat with her. I should have been sleeping last night, but we were chatting back and forth in the middle of the night on the comments, and they are public, just like the chat is public, the comments are public. If somebody sends me a private email, I won't discuss it here live unless somebody wants me to. But the comments are very public. And she has a very interesting perspective. I don't know how old she is, but I think she's probably, older like a lot of us that are here. Not old, but older. I kind of have an older audience for this series. And she has some very, very interesting things to say. Because her former husband was like a reporter in the day at the same news station that Savannah worked at, and I guess she's had a house for many, many years in the same neighborhood as Nancy, and she was able to describe things about the neighborhood and the streets and how it's like a maze if you haven't been in that neighborhood before. You would have to know your way around, and it was very, it's very, very dark at night, and kind of what the locals are thinking, because I mentioned that this case seems to be losing traction, especially even in Arizona from what I'm hearing. And this lady, she had some very, very good comments to make. And I also had somebody that came in, and I'm not going to name that person. I had to delete a comment because it sounded like bullying. And there's just certain things we won't tolerate here, and that's politics, religion, or bullying, whether it's directed against myself or it's directed against one of my viewers. There's zero tolerance for that. So if you come in after the fact and bully someone in the comments, your comments will be deleted. And if it happens again a second time, then you will be permanently banned from the channel. Everybody here is welcome. So no bullying. I just have to make that extremely clear. I want to go over some of these comments, but I want to start with this new person, a simple gal at heart. Like I said, I just assume she's new because I haven't seen her comments before. And, I couldn't possibly be here long enough to go over 147 comments, but this was the top one as far as I was concerned. She said, many around here got sideways with Savannah after they were so distant with the community, citing their need for privacy, then turned around and let NBC use her mother's tragedy for a bump in the Nielsen's, which was very minimal. And this woman's husband was in the news business, and then he became a lawyer too, like Savannah. So, she and her ex-husband, or her ex-husband and Savannah have similar backgrounds, where they were lawyers and they were in the news industry. They're both from Tucson. And I thought that was very interesting for her to say that people there, like in Arizona, and maybe specifically in Tucson or even in that immediate neighborhood, got sideways when they believe that Savannah got distant with the community, citing privacy. I just thought that was interesting. Another girl came in. She made a lot of cool comments too. Lady Shore. I never heard about blood splatter, but heard he did teach, meaning Tommaso, taught AP biology and was teaching students some things about crime scenes. Because we talked a little bit about that yesterday. Like, I didn't realize that those types of classes were taught in, 6th grade science or biology. But apparently he's also taught at a college locally too, which I didn't know. And a lot of people didn't seem to be able to confirm the rumor that Tommaso is either still teaching for this school year or that he's not. She also said, a simple gal heart said, during the Rio Rico stuff, media was camped out 16 hours a day in front of Nancy Guthrie's and tomatoes. It's funny, people they put a tomato for Tommaso and they put an apple for Annie for some reason, which is kind of cute. She also mentioned you have to remember that this happened in January, so it was still cold, especially at night. Because I talked about, did the front porch guy have a single mask or a double mask? And I would be so hot, I would just be ripping that stuff right off my face. But it did happen, into January, beginning of February, the night of the 31st, the morning of the 1st. So it probably was a little chilly out there. There are many cases that have been solved by everyday fold. You're talking about the Catalina foothills. I guess that was in response to the Daly House, because I believe the Daly House is also in the Catalina foothills. But on the Google Maps, there was another name for that part of the neighborhood. Catholic says, I hear you. I'm not sure in regards to what, but thank you for the support. Now, also, there's some person that I believe is coming into my channel under multiple usernames, and they're constantly changing. But the way they spell it out looks similar. And they sent me a lot of messages about what happened last night in Washington, D.C., and we're just not going to be able to talk about that on a monetized YouTube channel. It involves politics and violence, so I can't go there with those comments. A simple gal says, I find it interesting that Savannah is a lawyer with experience in criminal law, and she didn't question many of the decisions made in her mother's case. Then I said, I bet everything I own she has her own private investigators on this. At least I hope. There's not much she can do regarding law enforcement at the moment. Then I got a response. I certainly respect that everyone is entitled to their own opinion. Savannah has connections, and I find it hard to believe that she couldn't have leaned into nanos about all the missteps, surely. She walked around the property as soon as she got there, and wouldn't you immediately ask why they left all this stuff behind? When it's convenient, she isn't shy about exerting her power, like bringing Mark into the picture from the beginning. And that brings up Mark Kelly. Am I still here? Are you guys still hearing me? I'm not seeing any comments. Can somebody just write something in the chat so I know that you guys are still watching? Oh, there's Trisha. Oh, gosh, I could have used you 5 minutes ago, Trisha. Yeah, we're just talking about, I met somebody in the comments last night. I got 147 comments on yesterday's video. Thank you, Kermudge. And there's a gal called, her username is A Simple Gal at Heart, and she actually lives in the Catalina foothills. And she's familiar with the Guthrie family and the neighborhood and the layout and everything that's happened there. And she just started to make some very, very good points. And she mentioned Mark Kelly, how Savannah called Mark Kelly right away, and that this happened on a Sunday. And by Monday morning, Mark Kelly was at the Pima County Sheriff's Department with donuts and coffee. And she's talked about Savannah exerting her power to get Mark Kelly involved from the beginning. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It obviously, it hasn't done anything for the investigation, but I got to wonder, what did Mark Kelly say to the Pima County Sheriffs? Aristocrat. Hello. Welcome in. Yeah, and you probably missed this comment, Tricia, because you just came in. But this was probably the most interesting. This was very important. She said, many around here are meeting in, I guess Tucson or the Catalina foothills got sideways with Savannah after they were so distant with the community, citing their need for privacy, then turned around and let NBC use her mother's tragedy for a bump in the Nielsen ratings, which was very minimal. And this lady also mentioned that her ex-husband, he was in the news business and worked at the same station that Savannah worked in at the beginning of her career, and that he, went on to become a lawyer as Savannah's a lawyer, and she even knew, where Savannah went to school. And, I don't know if she's ever met Nancy, but she had a lot to say about Nancy and Savannah and the entire family. Now, she, or was it her or someone else, also mentioned jealousy amongst YouTubers. And let me make it very clear, I am not jealous of anybody. I've never done this for the money. I'm very, very happy to have the 2,600 subscribers that I have. It's nice to be remonetized and maybe be able to make some of the money back that I've spent on the channel over the years. But, I like all the YouTubers. I don't have anything against anybody. Also, I mentioned at the beginning, you weren't here, Trisha, and you need to know this because you are a mod, that if anybody comes into the chat and there's an attempt to bully somebody, that they will be removed immediately. I don't want to bring out like I'm cracking the whip today, but I got to crack the whip. Trisha says, yes, I discovered today that the whole Desert Law series was 10 episodes that premiered from January to March of this year. I've heard about that. The reality series, and it's about the Pima County Sheriff's Department. I would love to be able to see that. Just because I'm interested in Tucson. And it was so cool to hear somebody. I just had there was a comment in the chat, not in the chat, but in the comments from the prior video that I had to remove because it was like, bullying. And I deleted it immediately. I don't think I've ever seen it in the chat, but just in case. I just wanted you to know. For all my mods. I know Hearts is not here because I just saw her on another show that I was watching up until the point that I went on the air for my show. Also, there's somebody that's coming in under multiple usernames, and I think that was the person that sent my name out to a senior citizens organization. And thank you for all the cards. The one that changed my identity. And he made a lot of comments about what happened last night in Washington, D.C., and we can't go there. We can't go there with politics or violence. That was a terrible situation. Very scary. And then also, you'd missed Trisha. She said, I find it interesting that Savannah is a lawyer with experience in criminal law, and she didn't question many of the decisions made in her mother's case. Well, there's only so much she can do. She's not working for the FBI or the sheriff. She just kind of has to wait like the rest of us. Hopefully she has her own PIs on there and she has more information than we have. Yes, Roscoe, that's why he's been he went to the hearing this past week. Pima County Sheriff is back in the news. Apparently he lied on his resume. And this woman that was chatting with me late last night, she refers to him as Barney, and she said that he didn't win by very many votes, which I heard that. And that a lot of the locals, they didn't really want him to be reelected. But he was. But he may not have his job, as Roscoe points out. He's back in the news for not being completely truthful on his resume when he came into Pima County, especially about his past association with the police department in El Paso, Texas. We're going to hear about his job future middle of May, Roscoe. Yes, that is true. Jay comes in and says, I'm always late with a little teardrop. It's okay, Jay, as long as you're watching. This lady Shore, she had some very good comments to make too. And she says, yes, I heard Annie read the poem with bones and such. It was chilling, actually very dark. Yeah, I'm very creeped out by that. That's not true at all, Gothic. It's completely the opposite, but you're going to get taken out. Thank you. That close to an election, there's going to be hard feelings. Absolutely. Oh, was just talking about you. I thank you for coming in. I mentioned to my audience when I started the show that if you put something in the chat or you put something in the comments, it's all out on the table to talk about. Now, if somebody sends me a private email, it's very private unless you tell me, like, hey, I want you to discuss this on your show. But I had just mentioned some of your comments and that you are actually a local Tucson, Arizona resident, and that you say in your chat that you lived in the Catalina foothills. And I just started reading a few of them to the few people that are actually here. I thought there'd be a little more people here on a Sunday, but maybe like last night, people will come in and watch the playback. There was 147 comments last night, and it's very cool to hear the perspective of a local resident. So if you want to introduce yourself to the chat, feel free. Aristocrat says, what a painful life. Life is already hard for most people, and I bet that the Guthrie family are experiencing lots of mental stress. Absolutely. Savannah, I adore her, but gosh, has she aged through this? And I understand that because when I went through my illness, which I'm still having the side effects from, it's aged me like 15 years, in 5 years. So, I've never felt or looked this old in all my life. And, if we never find Nancy, there's never going to be closure, if they don't find something, even if it's just remains, there's never going to be closure. And if the God forbid happens, and somebody that Savannah knows, like, a family member or a close friend to the family or somebody that worked for the mother in her home or, anybody connected to the Guthries, Savannah is just, I don't know if she's ever going to be able to recover. I mean, she's a strong woman, and she's a professional, but it must be very hard. Aristocrat says, you are right. This has an impact even on the health and physical appearance. Absolutely. A simple gal at heart says, I had a blast talking to you. Half my comments didn't make sense. I was exhausted. Yeah. And I wanted everybody here to realize that I just recently became monetized, and I know you're new here, simple gal, and I enjoy everybody. And anybody can come in as long as we don't talk politics. We don't talk religion. Nobody says some foul language in here because I can get demonetized. We can't talk drugs or alcohol or gambling. But I enjoy all the YouTubers, even some of the ones that have been controversial in the news lately. I learn from my elders, and I learn from people who are more experienced at this than me. And I never started a YouTube channel to make money. I started a YouTube channel to document my life. And I looked up the date last night. It was December 27th, 2020. And I was just months out of radiation and having my stomach scoped at that point, and having, a mastectomy, having 2 different types of chemo, Red Devil, which ruined my heart. Like, I was still very early on when I was like, you know what, as long as I'm here and I can't go out as a PI and film anymore, I'm going to film for YouTube. And if nobody watches my videos, that's fine. And I still feel that way. But considering that I've spent so much money on this, money that I don't have at this point because I am disabled now, the fact that I did get remonetized, and there's been a few donations that have come in here and there, especially the super chats and the super thanks and the little gifts that people put up on the screen, that's really going to make a difference because it's going to help me to keep going. So, Ange, hi April, just subscribe, watching from the UK. Just hoping there are some answers to what happened to Nancy very soon. Well, welcome in from the UK. I am British and Irish, so everybody here is welcome. I have so many countries coming in now. I mean, even places like Egypt and Israel and Australia and New Zealand and Europe and South America. Somebody came in from Africa, Mexico, Canada. It's just, I'm mind blown that, I'm just reaching a global audience, although yet very small. But, like I said, I'm not here for the clicks. I'm not here for the subs, but anything that, anybody that can sub or give me a thumbs up or send the red hearts to bring people into the lives, it's all helpful. Let's see. Perfect. I totally understand. I would never jeopardize anyone's ability to make a living. Oh, yeah. And just remember, a simple gal at heart, the person we were talking about last night, has never been charged on those allegations that we were speaking about. Never been charged. And what someone has done in the past is the past. And I actually enjoyed watching him being the boots on the ground because I'm not physically well enough to be the boots on the ground. Now it's shrinking now. You haven't watched all the videos, obviously. Trisha, I think you need to put somebody in a timeout. Thank you. Yeah, I started with one, and one is the loneliest number. And obviously, I've not had a lot of success on YouTube because if you had anybody that has a successful YouTube channel, it doesn't take 5 years and 4 months to gain 2,633 subscribers. But you know what? I was able to do what less than 5% was able to do as far as reaching 1,000, and then less than 1% of those people ever see a penny. And I did see a few pennies in the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025, and then YouTube went, and then I deleted like a third of my videos, and they're like, oh, no problem, you can reapply in 90 days. But because I was stupid and I just went delete, trigger happy, it took this long to build it back up again. You are back, says Kathy Mowry. Welcome back. Yeah, I was just talking about some of the comments that came in. There weren't a whole lot of people that were here for yesterday's video, but a lot of people have watched it, at least for my channel. At least 1,000 people, I think, have watched it since it was posted. And I got like 147 comments. Now, some of those, of course, are my own, responding to people. But it was so cool to meet somebody. Somebody came into the channel to comment on the video from yesterday, and it's a local who lives in the Catalina foothills. And it's so interesting to meet someone, even if it's just here online, for me to know somebody now that's actually there, like every single day, and knows, what's going on, and, how many people are out there, and what's the latest, and what's going on with Sheriff Nanos, which a lot of people here refer to as Barney and Bananos. I hate to criticize, but I'm not happy that the crime scene was unsecure in under 20 hours from his perspective. It was already like compromised from the time that the FBI arrived. Remember, the ransom notes didn't show up right away. Because, in most kidnappings, ransom notes are left at the scene or they're sent to the family immediately. So we didn't really know until sometime the public didn't know until the following Tuesday. But maybe some of those notes came in Monday. I think the Team Z notes came in Tuesday morning. The FBI was brought in at the point that it was believed to be a kidnapping for ransom, even if the ransom notes were, all faked. Which I don't know if they were or they weren't. I don't find them very credible, but Savannah did say in one of her statements that the FBI found the first 2 notes credible, but she had not actually seen them herself. Even though it's her mother, she's not going to have all the information that's very specific to the investigation. Kathy, this is important. They're saying that the hair sample is viable. 3 years ago, they wouldn't have been able to use it. Technology is beautiful. Yeah, they can get DNA from a rootless hair, but that should have been sent to the FBI from the beginning and not to the lab in Florida, even though they're a very good lab, but they don't have the same technology as the FBI. And the FBI also, they use this lab that's out here in California and San Francisco, and they're able to identify DNA or extract DNA from a rootless hair. Ange says, I would never be brave enough to do a YouTube channel. I admire everyone or anyone who does. I can't believe the doormat is still there outside Nancy's house, is it? We should ask our new friend here. Let me go back to the chat. It was a simple gal at heart. Maybe you could, walk by the house and tell us, is the doormat still at the front door? I don't know if you could see that, though, from the street. It is in Quantico now, but Quantico either has or is going to forward it to the lab in San Francisco, and they help solve some of the details on the Gilgo Beach person who has 8 victims. And that was the lab that was involved that has that new technology. And you would think the police would be tired of hearing about that doormat, that they would just have sent someone over there to grab it and throw it in the back of a cruiser. And it is shocking, like, not just the YouTubers that were the boots on the ground, but, mainstream news media, including Brian Enton, and who I do admire his channel or his reporting. But those people walked right up to that front door, and it wasn't just the evidence on the porch, but it was the evidence in front of the porch that led a few steps away from that front porch, and that all got trampled on immediately. I even saw, like the first week, I saw an Amazon package delivered there, and it was sitting to the right side of the porch, but all the blood was still there, pretty fresh. And it was like, Amazon has been trampling that. And then I heard that pizzas were arriving, and YouTubers and neighbors and just gawkers that come by, like they come by to see the scene of an accident. They started walking through the neighborhood. People started driving from other parts of Tucson. I'm sure people were coming from out of state. You had reporters from all over the country coming, and people walking up to that front door, and that just should have never been allowed to happen. And Detective School 101, you secure the crime scene. Oh, I'm glad you're feeling better, Kathy. She says, I'm feeling so much better, I even made it to church. Yeah, I hope our friend Kelly is feeling better. I haven't seen her in here today. I've seen her online, though, so I know she's still with the living. But even every single FBI specialist has commented on that map. Hey, Sue Brock, welcome back. Yeah, also, I think the frame that was holding the Nest doorbell, that should have been taken as well. When the silly YouTubers start sending pizza and stuff like that, I feel they should be charged with evidence tampering as people walking up messing with things. Yeah. But they didn't have the crime scene secure. And then by the time the FBI got there to check some things, they had temporarily put some yellow tape around it for a couple of hours, but it's already been compromised. So if somebody gets arrested for this based on evidence that's found in the house, and they get a good lawyer, they're going to be able to fight that, because they could say, oh, I was set up, or evidence was tampered with, or somebody placed that at the scene of the crime after the fact to cover up their own misdeeds. Remember, someone who was named as a top suspect by Ashley Banfield, and yes, I understand that even the bigger mainstream channels, they need the views, they need the clicks. I do believe what her source said, the law enforcement source, that Tomato, whatever you want to call him, that at the beginning he was considered not just a person of interest, but a prime suspect. Not that he did it. Remember, everybody here on this channel is innocent until proven guilty. I'm not pointing the finger at anyone. But the fact that, she said that, and then the cops or the FBI took the car, or was it, no, the Pima County Sheriffs took the car. Which one? Now, it's 85 days. Can somebody refresh my memory? Whoever towed the car had it for over 5 weeks, and they tore that car apart. The first week they were searching their house, they were there for at least 5 days, but they kept coming back and conducting more tests, even at night, where they were turning out the lights, and they were probably using, I would assume they were doing luminol testing, like, on the walls and the floors, and, for somebody who is not a suspect, what I'm saying is that the police and the FBI spent a lot of time at that house. So that's why I kind of believe Ashley Banfield saying that a very top law enforcement source, who I believe is someone at the federal level, probably somebody in the FBI, said, immediately, like the very first week, that he was a prime suspect. Now, 90% of the time, when a kidnapping, an abduction, an unaliving occurs, it is somebody that you know, or somebody within the family or very close to you. So, but there's the Savannah factor. I keep mentioning that. Remember, this woman was the mother of somebody very famous who also has a lot of wealth. Therefore, it puts a target on Savannah's back and her entire family's backs. And says, why hasn't Nancy's family complained about the handling of the case, especially Savannah, as she has a public profile? That's very similar to what a simple gal heart, or a simple gal at heart, that's a long one, mentioned to me last night. But, what can she do at this point? The case is still under investigation. I'm sure she knows more than the rest of us, but she can't really, come out and point the fingers. Now, if it doesn't go in the right direction at some point, then there's always the possibility to, hire a civil attorney and start, throwing out the lawsuits. But right now, they're just trying to get her mother back. You never complain about the chef when you were only on the third course of 7. Exactly. Trisha, you're very smart. I don't know what my live videos would do without you. Thank you, friend. But yeah, there's only so much she can do. I mean, why, take away time from the investigation when they've already been distracted by, the ransom texts and the ransom notes and all the characters, the actors involved in this case are out in front of the house, and the press conferences, and they just need to be able to have the time to. This case has to be a priority. Finding Nancy. Now, considering her medical condition, I don't think she's still alive. I think she's gone. But I still want her to be found. I still want there to be closure for the Guthrie family, and I still want anybody involved in this to be found, arrested, charged, prosecuted, and sentenced very harshly. There's just no excuse for anybody to have committed this type of crime. Kathy Maury says, I believe that we have some oil money in it. Tricia says, oh, that is very sweet, but they would still do very well. What, you mean the videos? You've helped me with so much. Tricia, still sticking to the bench theory. I wish that something like that could happen, that she'll just poof one day and there she'll be sitting on a bench, like not even knowing what happened. Kathy Maury says they were bought off. Who was bought off? And our new friend here, Simple Gal at Heart, she did say something about Mark Kelly being at the police station first thing Monday morning with coffee and donuts. Like, what exactly was he looking for in this? Oh, Luton, I don't know what that has to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about the Nancy Guthrie disappearance, and it's day number 85, and we are hoping to keep this case relevant and bring Nancy home. Well, you gotta keep saying the pros and cons of monetization. The law enforcement officers, all of them. Bought off by who, though? And it does seem like Nanos has gone, oh, I forgot to turn off my notifications. There's always something like, okay, remember this, do that. And I was having problems getting my thumbnail loaded for some reason. That's unusual. It kept loading wrong. Okay. At least I've learned that when I have to turn it off midstream, that I know how to just tap the screen and get back to you guys. Because you guys can still see me, but I can't see you when I go behind the screen. We did have some Persian names that came into this. I'd still like to know. I still like to know more about that. A simple gal at heart says, my only point is that given Savannah's background, that she didn't immediately issue some gentle directives about grabbing the dang doormat and dismantling the iron door. Oh, and I have a question for you, since you are familiar with the houses in that neighborhood, simple gal. That screen that's over the front door, is that a security screen like they have in a lot of houses here in LA? Or you mentioned something about a storm screen. What is the purpose of that? I thought it was just like a security screen, but I don't know. Oh, that reminds me, April. Watch the latest video by Clutch Those Pearls. Your hairball is in there. I don't know who is that. Is that a YouTuber? Clutch Those Pearls? My hairballs? I totally have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, that's interesting about that they didn't take the mat, and I think that they should have taken the frame that the Nest doorbell was on. Oh, that's what I thought. Okay, they're wrought iron doors meant to give added security. I thought that's what it was. And they would be very hard to open without making a heck of a lot of noise. And I do think somebody came in from the back and opened up that door. Yeah, there's a front door, and then there's the security screen. And it would take a lot to bust through that. Yeah, I don't like a lot of links in the chat. I'd like to concentrate on, what's going on in this particular stream. Trisha, how do I pay you? Somehow, I don't have a lot of, money, but I got to do something for you because you're earning your keep today. Hey, Commerge, were you here when I was called Yellow Teeth again? Do you have any idea how much money I've spent in the month of April at the dentist? That was after the second heart surgery in January, the kidney surgery in February, and the subsequent infections in March, and now have gone to 2 trips to the dentist. And the real work I need, which is from when I had my chemo, that's another $1,800 and could cause a whole nother array of issues, and it would take multiple visits. So I'm just going to have to wait on that. But, gosh, if I get $20 in super chats today, I might be encouraged to go over to CVS on Monday and buy one of those. Is it Colgate that makes the little pin, and you can make your teeth white? Because they're not this in person they're not as yellow as they look on screen. But I don't like it if people are looking at me and they think that they're yellow when I've had dental care since I was 3 or 4 years old, and I'm old, and I go regularly. So, I was told once by a dentist in West Hollywood in my 20s that I'm a redhead, and it's very hard to keep things white. Do not do anything whitening. Well, I don't want to lose my enamel because you obviously, as you age, you lose enamel. If Nancy was taken out of the front door, which she obviously was, why were those back doors propped open? None of it makes sense. Some people have surmised that maybe the back doors were propped open with those big, heavy clay pots in case someone needed to make a quick exit. Excuse me, but for someone who needed to make a quick exit, can I speak today? Why were they in the house for at least 41 minutes? And if there was more than one person involved, the person that came through the back or the people that could have come through the back, they could have even been there before front porch guy. We don't know that he was the first person there that was videotaped from the Nest doorbell camera. So we know based on when he arrived and based on when her heart pacemaker stopped syncing that somebody spent 41 minutes in the house. And I'm telling you, from a detective standpoint, kidnappers don't spend 41 minutes in a house and turn on all the lights and prop open all the doors like that. Somebody could have screamed, and then a neighbor would have been like, "Oh, who's screaming?" Like, you keep it. It's not as quick as a bank robbery, which is 2 or 3 minutes, but probably the most time you'd want to spend in that situation would be 5 or 6 minutes, and you got to be out of there. The pizza story was not JLR's fault. One of his supporters wanted to surprise him with a meal, and they looked up the address and sent it there. Oh my God, now I didn't see that. Did the pizza man actually walk to the front door? Will Ange, if it was one person, then prop doors make it easier. Yeah, but they wouldn't have taken her out of the back. And something happened at the front door. We don't know where the blood in the house was, but I'm starting to think that maybe it was right on the other side of the door, like inside the house, because she fought back. It's almost comical, but whose fault is all this? Pima County sheriffs for not securing that property. I'm sure a pizza person wouldn't have walked up there if the house was secured. Heck, the whole street should have been secured. They should have had the sheriff at both ends checking IDs for people that live there so they can at least drive in, but everything should have been secured. Yeah, I don't get that either. Second word. What did I miss, Kathy Mowry? My husband and my doggy Paul Anka just returned from the cabin. You saw an article about Brian Inton. I know he was one of the many YouTubers that walked, or not a YouTube, he's more, yes, he's on YouTube, but he's part of that Nation News Network, whatever it's called, the one that Ashley Banfield used to work for. He was one of the many people that just immediately walked up to the front door. And there was evidence, that was in the dirt, because the blood wasn't just on the porch. It was a few steps away from the porch. According to my person they described JLR's vehicle, gave them his name, and the pizza place said they would do it, but the driver said screw it and said they could get it from the porch. I'm totally lost here. But yeah, the house, the crime scene, the property was compromised by everybody. They even let the U.S. mail continue to deliver the mail there and put their hands inside the mailbox. And I thought that, maybe a ransom note might show up in the mail there. Yes, the pizza delivery person walked right onto the property. That's what I've heard. The poor pizza man was clueless. It was only second day. He obviously hadn't heard about Nancy. Even the sheriff car parked there didn't stop him. Yeah, I believe that. Some of this is so easy. Detective School 101. I just don't understand all the things that should have never happened. It's a cluster F. And you know what I'm trying to say. I just can't say the word here. And a couple times it has slipped down in my show, and I apologize. The pizza being delivered to the porch rather than the vehicle. Is there any updates on this case? Nilda Rowland says, no, other than the FBI now has possession of the hair sample that was sent to the lab in Florida, and they may have already forwarded it to a lab in San Francisco. But, she did live in that house since 1975, and although I'm sure the house was immaculate and she had a housekeeper and all that, you know how many people are in that house, I would test everything that you think could be a potential piece, but I don't have a whole lot of hope at this point that that's going to be the one thing that's going to crack this case wide open. We know that Nanos's butt is on the hot seat, but even if they remove him from his job, like, we can't backpedal. He can't backpedal and clean up this big giant mess. I hope they do find something. And it's shocking that there's $1.2 million on the table offered as a reward, and nobody has come forward to claim that reward as far as we know. I've made 2 calls to the FBI. I mean, that's a lot of money. I had a video about this a few nights ago about who is Front Porch Guy, and I think it was Jennifer Koffendorfer who listed 4 or 5 reasons why nobody has come forward to identify him. I mean, somebody knows who he is. I mean, I've called in my tips, but I'm not boots on the ground in Arizona. I'm not investigating this case. I'm just reporting this case. But, can you imagine if the tip I called in was the one that cracked the case, and I would have access to some of that reward money? Like, it would change my whole life. You have no idea the stress of having stage 3, grade 3 cancer that usually kills, and not being able to work, and just my whole life has spun out of control for the last 7, 8 years now, and something like that would be a huge help. I wish I knew like the right answer. I'll come forward. I'll put my butt on the line. This is a circus. I mean, this is like I've described the people involved. If you've seen my suspect video on my long form content, I've described this as the characters, the actors involved in this play or this movie. And somebody came in and said, heck, this is not a movie, this is a soap opera. And that's what it's become. It's become like a serial drama, that it just keeps going and going and going. Where a movie has a beginning and an end. A play has a beginning and an end. But a soap, it just keeps going. But where's the story arc here? Even in soaps, they have story arcs. Okay, we're going to do this storyline with these characters for this amount of time. Then we're going to move on to this arc and that. It's like, when is this ever going to end? Ange says, I wonder if it will lead back to one of the suspects already questioned, in particular, the one dressed up in 20 layers when being interviewed for TV. Did you notice? He shaved, and, for a warm time of year in Tucson, he had the long sleeves, and someone said, oh, he forgot to change his shoes. Luke. Oh, God. I laughed at that. I mean, this is a very serious issue, but there are a few things that have happened that have made me giggle, including some of the antics of JLR Investigates. I don't condone crime in any manner. I've spent 42 years, and I don't care if it's in my own family. If somebody commits a crime, I'm done. But there are some people that can change and that can rehab, and God, I hope he has. But some of his antics, he's provided the humor, and I don't watch him very much because I'm too busy making my own videos. I don't agree with his past indiscretions, but there have been some YouTubers where I've just had to crack up. A simple gal at heart says, my former husband worked at the same station that Savannah Guthrie worked at. They were both reporters. Both eventually left and went on to law school. I remember Savannah Guthrie, but this was many years ago. Oh, simple gal, I remember your comment last night about when she was in high school, going down to the hot dog stand, and people said she was a goth. Did you actually meet Savannah? Because I think you did. because your husband worked with her at the news station in Tucson, or your former husband. We eventually divorced, and I got custody of many of our female friends. We stay in touch. Ange says there has to be some levity in the gravest of situations. Yes. Welcome back, aristocrat. So you have met Savannah. That's great. I'd love to know more. I thought that was so funny. Like in high school, being down at the hot dog stand and being described as a goth smoking with their friends. Like, but didn't we all take a few cigs in high school? Take a few puffs. I know at my age, with all the medical conditions that were caused by the cancer treatment, because I was tested for everything, before, and everything was good and healthy except for the cancer part. I look back now and I go, gosh, some of those things I did in high school or early college, like, oh, geez. Maybe it's a good thing that I didn't finish and I got out early and just started working. Because then I was like, okay, I'm working, I'm a detective now, and, I gotta behave. Kathy Mowry says the whole thing has just been a joke from the start. Trisha, I was the geek girl in high school. Well, I was always a redhead, and my hair was a lot redder the younger I was. And so I was bullied most of my life because of my hair, but I try not to let it get to me. But I always thought, if I come back, what's the one thing that affected me the worst in my life? My red hair or my poor vision? Because, now I can see a plane flying over at 40,000 feet and I can count the engines on it. But I can't see anything up close because of my 4 eye surgeries. But my eyes prevented me from doing my law enforcement career, and my red hair always got me bullied. So I always thought, if I come back, if I could get rid of one aspect of this life, my hair or my eyes, which one would I change? And I have to tell you now, be careful of what you might wish for, because when I lost my hair from chemo and it came back, it's never been the same. And people that have known me my whole life, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe your hair. I worked at a high school, nothing wrong with being young. I thought it was cute. Tricia says, you went to the wrong high school, April, or the wrong school. I had deep auburn hair and I was worshipped. Yeah, my hair was auburn as a child. It's not like I looked like a carrot top. My junior and senior year, I went to school 4 hours and worked from 11:30 to 5. That's cool. I graduated high school very early. And I started college early, but I also moved home to Los Angeles at age 18, and I didn't have a lot of income coming in. I had a little bit of help at the beginning from my parents, but not a lot, not enough to survive and to eat. So I ended up, I was waiting to get into law enforcement because you have to be a minimum age but everybody said you're not going to qualify because of your eyes. And so my PI career was really not my first choice. A simple gal at heart. This hot dog place was close enough, and the kids would say that if they could throw a hot dog and it landed on the campus, they couldn't be counted as a truant. I was just trying to picture that, like a young Savannah with her very dark hair, her natural hair. She's probably I doubt she dyed her hair in high school. And being a goth or something, or looking like a goth. Was she dressed like a goth and smoking with her friends at the local hot dog stand? That's just that made me laugh. Kathy says, I hated high school. Most of my friends were the popular girls and guys. Yeah, I was in a private school for many years, and it was very hoity-toity, and we weren't a rich family, and we weren't a Southern family, and if you live in the South, which we did at that time, and you're not from there, you don't fit in, especially with the old money family. So I was miserable. But in the 8th grade, I got to go to public school, and I rode a bus, the only year I ever rode a bus, and we went into an African-American ghetto, actually, that was a very poor part of town, but very nice people. And I was so excited, like, wow, I'm going to ride the school bus and I'm going to go into the ghetto every day. And it was so nice to see a mix of races in the school, unlike the private schools where that was no, no, no. Like the South is or was, at least when I lived there, extremely racist. I hated home, Kathy. I used every excuse I could to think to spend every minute there. A simple gal. Yes, thank God we aren't judged. I was super wild in college. I did well, but I had spent more time in the classroom versus a bar. I would have done even better. You have to have the Southern accent to fit in. Yeah, my accent is all over the place because my parents are from the Midwest. I was born in New England, but I was raised from the age of 1 to the age of 4 in California, both the Bay Area and Los Angeles, which are like two different states entirely. Then the Gulf Coast, but I was raised with Connecticut and California kids while we lived on the Gulf Coast. Then my bestie moved to New Jersey, where the accents are really heavy, those Philly accents. Oh my gosh. I spent a lot of time there, but I never lived there. But then we moved to Maryland, and that's kind of a mix between the North and the South. It's actually technically below the Mason-Dixon line, which really upset me because I was like, darn it, this is still the South. But some of my best friends are from the South. No offense to anybody from the South, but we were aliens there. We even lived in a special neighborhood called Alpine Hills, and the real estate agent told my parents it was called Yankee Land. Like you had to be segregated from the rest of the city. And my sister had an African American friend that she grew up with there, and they actually moved. The mother was very famous in Mobile, Alabama. She was a judge. She was a lawyer and a judge, and they moved to our neighborhood, and people lost their minds. And we were so, it's not a laughing matter, we were so concerned because my dad had brought someone from Connecticut into Mississippi, and a cross was burned in their front lawn. And when my sister's friends moved in across the street from us, and they were the first, black family in the neighborhood, people, my parents, especially my dad, worried that there was going to be a repeat and that, a bad group that's known in the South was going to come in and, burn the house down. That was some serious stuff. That scared me as a child. I don't know if it's still like that, but I guess there's good and bad everywhere, but that's scary. Kathy says, I've lived in the Mojave Desert for almost 2 years. Oh, wow. Where in Mojave? Jay says, in high school was the friend when they needed one like a ride. Otherwise, the phone was mostly silent. I made too many calls out. Now I make none. A simple gal at heart. I toyed with the idea of going to law school, but I didn't want anyone asking me if I actually passed a bar or just passed by a bar. Was what in Florida? Kathy says they laughed at my Illinois accent. Lancaster area. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's the very edge. The Antelope Valley is the beginning edge of the Mojave Desert. And that's where they have some of the Mojave green rattlesnakes. It's like a whole different world there. It's like going from Earth to Mars, Aristocrat. Yeah, people in the South tend to be more closed-minded than people of the North, but I think that's changing with the internet and knowledgeable people are getting, and knowledge people are getting from the internet. I hope so. I have a really good childhood friend that lives in Sarasota, Florida. And she was one of the families, like our family, that lived in Connecticut, then lived in California. Then they briefly went back to Connecticut while we were living in Los Angeles. And then they came and actually lived with us for a while in Mobile, Alabama, until they could buy a house. And she hated it growing up there because people called her transplant. They're like, transplant, transplant. And to this day, she hates it so bad there that she doesn't even like to go visit. Like she said, it's still very, very racist. And that's sad because I know people that I my friend Kelly that's on here. I met her in Mobile in junior high school, and her family, they weren't racist. None of the kids I grew up with were racist. But remember, we lived in Yankee land. We lived in that special neighborhood where white Yankees could live. Kathy says, I worked 2 jobs and went to cosmetology school. Aristocrat says, most of the knowledge I have, including politics, science, and philosophy, I got it thanks to the internet. Yeah, the internet has changed the whole world. People are more open-minded, more open-minded towards UFOs and things like that. It's a different world today with the internet, and certainly changed the PI industry, that's for sure. But I always tell new investigators coming in, or trainees, people that are still not licensed yet, that are training as a PI, that only rely as those internet databases and websites, only use that as a tool. You still have to know how to do things the old-fashioned way. Sleep was interesting. Well, we've gone way off topic here, but yeah, I was just reading through some of these comments that our new friend had made last night. Also, Lady Shore, she made some good comments. I hadn't seen her before. She mentioned the items that were found in the wash behind Annie and Tommaso's. She said a pants, a top, and a blanket. But, that could belong to anybody. The family believes that when Nancy was taken, that she was taken in her pajamas and no shoes. Someone wrote, I think it's possible that no matter what direction the FBI goes in, it always leads back to Tommaso and Annie, and Savannah Guthrie keeps pushing back because she's devastated. Barney will do anything to endear himself to her, so the case will remain unsolved for as long as they can get away with it. It's going to absolutely destroy Savannah more than it already has, if it does turn out to be connected to someone close to them. That's all I can say. Aristocrat says, yeah, I really don't believe that Tommaso and Annie are involved in this case. I hope not. I mean, I understand why the police have to look into the people closest to her first and the last people to see her, but gosh, I hope not. Because if they are involved, is she in denial, or subconsciously, her subconscious just can't process into her conscious mind what's going on? I hope it's like something different, but if it is something different, then it's gonna, if it's not somebody close to them, it's gonna sway back to somebody that targeted her because she was the mother of Savannah Guthrie, which I call the Savannah factor, and that's gonna devastate her. Remember, she asked her brother, do you think it was me? And he said something like, yes, sweetie, like it could be. And now everybody's like, ragging on him. Did you look at the front door guy in Tomato Man eyes? They spook me. I have looked at the eyes at the front door. But the guy in the mask doesn't resemble him at all. Exactly. A person has to be very, very heartless and cold in order to kidnap their own mother. Remember the movie Fargo? I know it's just a movie, but there's a lot of realism in that script. The guy has his own wife kidnapped, but he doesn't want her harmed. And by the end of that movie, half of Fargo and Minnesota were dead. It was like, it didn't end well for anybody. Because if you hire, a criminal to do something, things can go wrong. And this could be a case where somebody hired, some criminals to do this. They weren't professionals. They messed up. She died. Now nobody has anything. Everything is in limbo. I leave my house shoes next to my bed when I'm not wearing them. If I am at home, I am always wearing them. Yeah, in California, you have to sleep with, well, it used to be I had to wear glasses or contacts. So I always have my glasses next to my bed, and the shoes because, glass being on the floor after an earthquake. The eyes are identical, says Kathy. I'll take a look at it later. I'll look at it again. It's just not the right body shape at all. And the guy, whoever's behind the mask, has the metrosexual eyes. Very effeminate looking for a man. The eyelashes, the eyebrows. That man appears to have a much smaller frame. But, I've never seen these people in person. So I don't even know how tall Tommaso is or how much he weighs. And if he is involved, I would think that he would be the planner, the primary, the ringleader, more than the doer. But I'm not saying that he's involved at all. I hope not. As strange as they are to me, I just hope that Tommaso and Annie aren't involved. Because if Tommaso's involved, then Annie's probably involved too. But I hope not. But whoever it is, they specifically targeted Nancy Guthrie. And it was either revenge or it's money. Was it meant as an abduction and an unaliving from the start, or was it meant as a kidnapping for ransom? And for what purpose? No, Kathy. Kathy Mallory says, did you see the backpacks that were taken out of the Tomato Man's house? No, I didn't. Kimberly, welcome in. She says money. Oh, yeah, Jay. Very tweezed eyebrows. Yeah. And remember, when the police went to the gun stores with the list of 20, and I'm not sure how they got those 20 names. Apparently, there were a lot of Persian names on that list. And then that brings us back to Zach Jaghoob, and apparently, maybe, allegedly, the owner of the Range Rover, who may have or have not sold it to Luke Daly. A lot of those younger Persian males are metrosexuals, and they have the shaped eyebrows and the nice fingernails, but you can't see the fingernails under the gloves. Aristocrat says, I think this case is a revenge-oriented case. And revenge against who? Revenge against Nancy or revenge against maybe Savannah? Then tomato would be I can't see that icon. Whoever did this, very professional, maybe government spooks with a lot of military knowledge. Yeah, but why the plant thing at the door? And whoever it was not scared to be in that house. That seems like somebody who's familiar with the property. That's a very dark neighborhood. How would they know? Because, a simple gal at heart lives in this neighborhood. How would you know where all these different cameras were placed to remove? When that house doesn't even sit close to the street. It sits way far back, and it's a big property. This is not a small house. This is a big house. Savannah, I think he did have the keys to get in. He might be a Jew, too. I hadn't thought of that. When, I think it was Megyn Kelly, I'm pretty sure, because I don't watch her all the time, but I think it was Megyn at the beginning. They were looking at the guy in the mask, and she said, well, they're not black. He's not, he could be white. He could be Spanish or Hispanic. And I yelled at the screen, or he could be Middle Eastern. And I didn't have a particular country in mind, but I said he could be Middle Eastern. And I didn't know anything at that time, because this was only like a week or so after it happened that they were able to get those video clips off that camera. And thank God for Google that they were able to retrieve that video from the Nest camera, the doorbell camera. But I was thinking Middle Eastern. And that was long before this whole Luke Daly Zek Jaghoob, whole frenzy started on the 13th. He was making a huge money transfer, and Nancy found out. The Catalina foothills is just rich houses built on the mountain in the MIDD. I don't know what that means. Wish those cameras were in color. Good evening, David Chester Smith. You are the second person, I think, tonight, sir, to come in from the UK. Emerald Eyes. Maybe Porsche guy never went in the house and was trying to pry off the camera because he knew people inside were coming out the front door. I think the people who spent time inside were familiar. Yeah, I don't believe this one FBI or former FBI agent's theory. The guy that's got the real narrow, almost alien-looking face and the bald head, and he sounds super intelligent, but he thinks it's a single individual, and I just don't buy that. I just don't buy that it's one person. But remember, I am not investigating the case. I don't have the details that the police have. If I had those details, I might look at this whole thing in a completely different manner. Okay, a simple gal at heart says, I live about 7 minutes away. I'm on the edge of Oro Valley, so further north, that also has a lot of nice homes. Nancy has an acre. I have 1.3 acres, but set up the same. David says, I've seen the door cam footage. He knew what he was doing. Aristocrat, Kathy, but many other people are more radical than Savannah, like Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Green. Kelly Bruner, she was slugged in the face at the door and went to her knees. That's what it's looking like. He used the gun in the house. Someone says there was a car at the roundabout. It does seem like he turns around and he's looking at someone in the distance. Kimberly, I guess she's asking one of the viewers here, one of the chatters, are you close to Pima Canyon? The Ring doorbell was disconnected. Yeah, but they were able to lift the video from that. And it was not on a subscription. I think he dropped her body there. If he did drop her, I think there would have been a lot more blood because she's on a blood thinner. There wouldn't have just been the drips. And her heart was still beating at the time that the pacemaker stopped syncing, and she would have had to have been about 30 feet from the house for it to stop syncing with her devices. He had a walkie-talkie in his pocket. I think so. I don't believe this cell jammer or signal jammer BS. Even though the neighbor with the dog said that 2 of his cameras in the back went out, but yet Nancy's camera didn't go out. Oxygen in the blood, yes. That's why there would have been like oxygen bubbles. And you can tell that by the way the splatters are. The dogs heard the gate swing open. They definitely heard something. A simple gal at heart says, I will send you a video of a guy that looks similar as far as the outfit. Although this was a few years ago, it was creepy. Oh, please do so. aprildavispi@gmail.com. And anything that's sent to the email does remain private unless you guys say, hey, I want you to talk about this. But anything you put in the comments on the video or in the chat it's all for the world to see. Rumor is the electrician is involved. That's interesting. Yes, aprildavispi@gmail.com. As there were many workers there. I would think it would take a lot of upkeep to keep that house going. And perhaps that's why there was the second mortgage in 2017. But I still would like to know more about that. And I hope that at least the FBI has done a forensic accounting search on all the players involved in this, including Nancy. Like, let's do a deep dive of her finances. Oh, gosh. I think Savannah and Annie were in high school when it happened. And Cameron, David says, how long was Nancy a widow? Cameron had just left to go out onto the world, but Annie and Savannah were still, I think, high school age. Kelly Bruner, FBI felt she recognized the guy. That's very possible. It's usually somebody you know, unless it's the Savannah factor involved in this. I've heard that too, Kathy Mallory, that Annie and Tommaso removed boxes from Nancy's house last week. Yes. The betting is where the mixed DNA came from. Well, then hopefully they have something that will be useful with the rootless hair. It was a guy from her church, I bet. Don't know. Oh, Savannah was 16. I thought so. Thanks for letting me know that, Kelly Bruder. It's very possible, Kelly. She says Derek C., meaning Derek Kalela, Kayea, however you want to pronounce it, knew them from music. Well, they certainly had the same band promoters. They played the same type of very dark, creepy music. I mean, it's just dark. And he seemed to have their personal cell numbers and felt comfortable not only texting them, but calling them about, where's the ransom? Did you get the, or where's the Bitcoin? Did you get the Bitcoin yet? We're waiting to complete the transaction. David said, which church did she go to? There are some dark people hiding in some churches. Actually, it was all misreported by the sheriff's department that, she missed church. No, she missed a live stream of a church service that was being held at a neighbor's house. It was the church that Savannah had got her involved in that was actually in Manhattan, and she and her friends would watch the live together. They played goth death metal music. Emerald Eye says, I read that Annie's phone number was on been verified. Could be. Yes, Kelly, it was a TV service from New York. Yeah, it was live stream from New York. I tried to send it. I hope you received it. It's 2 videos, but they're super short. I'll check after the live. But thank you. Kelly, there's 2 different timelines on this, and this bothers me. Especially with the sheriff saying one thing, and then he goes back and he says another thing, and he backpedals, and then he's like, oh, I never said that, or I did say that, or this person is, nobody's a suspect, everybody's a suspect, nobody's cleared, everybody, this can't, like, why is there 2 different timelines? But it appears that there was quite a delay, at least for Annie calling Savannah to say that Mom is missing. And they may have been in the house long before they called the Popo, because the timeline, once again, keeps changing. But Nanos was convinced she walked off. And here's another thing that's really weird. And he says this at least twice in a couple of the earlier press conferences. He keeps talking about getting calls from the house on Saturday night, January 31st. Well, that was the night she was over at Tommaso and Annie's having dinner, and they have testimony from an Uber driver that proves that she was driven from her house to their house. What is he talking about, Saturday, January 31st? Like, I gotta wonder if this guy's all the way there. He released the house in 30 hours. I heard 20, but it could be 30. You don't have to be on your phone. The digital footprints are still there. That's true. Oh, okay. This was my sweet friend Doc Jones, sweetest little black lady that was like our neighborhood matriarch. She was what kept us together. But they told Savannah Guthrie the cops were there, so they called her after they called police. Yeah, after they had already searched the hospitals. Not on their way to the house, like, hey, have you heard from Mom today? Like, We're going to look for her. I'm not sure about the difference in like the timelines, because there was the beginning timeline and then there was the second timeline, and we talked about that in some of the earlier videos, but remember, we're up to day 85 now. Kelly Bruner, Savannah Guthrie called Mike Kelly, MK, yes, and then Nanos got edgy and jealous. Yeah, I'd like to know more about that. This whole thing is just weird from A to Z. And there's all these characters and actors who I mentioned in my Suspect video. You guys, if you haven't seen it, go watch the Suspect video. The timeline is by Nanos, and he changed his tune in 2 different interviews. You know what? You'd have to ask somebody from Tucson, Kimberly. Why did Gabby really get shot in 2012? Yeah, we're trying not to talk about violence here, but I don't remember all of that. The very first presser, Nonad said they were there on Saturday night. He never walked it back. Then he said that again in another interview. Yeah, I know. Like, what's going on? Nanos refused to believe the family she did not walk away, but yet there was blood in the house and at the front door. This whole thing is crazy, Kimberly. I've been a detective for 42 years and I've never seen anything like it. Nanos wasted time and felt like he knew more than them. Gabby was shot at my Safeway a day I will never forget. Yeah, I almost walked in on a shooting of Simple Gal at my high school. Somebody I predicted, who I never even met, I predicted a teacher was capable of something like that, and it happened for real. And I almost walked in on it, and I've carried with it. I've carried that every day for the rest of my life. Kimberly, egomaniac. Yeah, very arrogant. A disabled person does not walk away. Exactly. Savannah said some days her back hurt so bad she couldn't even walk from the front door to the mailbox. It's almost like he's intentionally gone out of his way to mess this up. Because how could someone who's been in law enforcement that many years make that many stupid decisions? Especially on a case that you know is going to be, it's going to blow up and be, national news. Because it involves a famous person's mother. Like, you got to handle that with kid gloves. And it seems like just the opposite has happened. Like, what's really going on here? What is this really about? I want it to be solved, but, when I lay awake at night and I think about this, my mind just goes down the deep, dark rabbit holes. Like, what is this really about? No problem, Kathy Mallory. Yeah, this is crazy, isn't it? And I appreciate all you guys that are rewatching, like the lives, but try to watch some of the regular videos too, because I need to get that part of the channel going, or this is just not going to work for me. Because I can't come on the air every single day for the rest of my life talking about where's Nancy, and it's 3 years from now. Like, at some point, the world is just going to move on to something else. I mean, there's so many people across America that go missing, and the cases are just unsolved forever. I'm sorry, I can't imagine. I thought my beautiful chum was at Safeway that morning. It was only by the grace of God that she decided to go to Target first. Please keep her name alive. I'm trying. And I doubt Savannah is watching any of the YouTubers, but if she is, I'm a licensed PI in California, mostly retired. But if you need to talk to me, Savannah, you send me an email at aprildavispi@gmail, and I'll confirm that it's you, because I have ways to do that. I'll have her, date of birth, social security number, home address, and private cell number. And if she can't verify any of that, I'll know it's not really Savannah. Then we'll have to Zoom or FaceTime so I can actually see her and go, oh, okay, it really is Savannah. She fought at the doorway. I think so, Kelly. I believe she died within 2 days. I believe that exactly, Kelly. Hi again, Panda. You also believe she is close by. I felt that too. I highly doubt that international Mexican story or Mexico story. I could be wrong, but I don't think they could have just put her on a plane or put her in a car. They would have had to smuggle her, and that would be so hard when she's in the condition she's in. Her school was having a PJ day, so I asked she go to Safeway. She decided to go to Target first. Wow. Hi, Alabama. I used to live there, Vicki. Hello, my friend, and I'm hoping that you are doing all right. Yes, I am. Sending you love from Alabama. I appreciate that. Speaking of Alabama, where's Kelly today? The other Kelly. Because we have Kelly Ray, we have Kelly Sullivan, we have Kelly Alley, and now we have Kelly Bruner. You're Kelly number 4 on here. Kimberly, the Cajun Navy came here with their dogs from Hurricane Katrina. Nanos turned them away. I know! Roll Tide, exactly. Kelly Bruner, you're from Iowa. I don't know where Kelly Sullivan and Kelly Alley's from, but I know Kelly Ray, she's from Alabama. And Kelly Bruner says she's from Iowa. Hey, Connecticut, not my birth state, but my first home state in my life. Hi, Jenny here from Connecticut. I'm doing well. Where is Nancy Guthrie? FK Patriarchy says North Carolina. Kelly Bruner, he refused the coyotes, kept it up that night. Oh, do you mean the sniffer dogs? Or the cadaver dogs? You would think that they would like to see what was in those boxes that were taken by Annie Tommaso. I'd love to know. But they've had access to the house since day one. This was a tragedy when he refused the Sonoran women. Jenny Lamberti says, I believe a family member took her. Possible. Holding her, possible. Oh, there were coyotes howling 3 nights later. Oh, okay. Kimberly says the dogs would have done their job. Very sad. It's all SAF. Yep. FK Patriarchy says it was the son-in-law, I believe. He's definitely on the list for sure, but remember, everybody here on my channel and in this discussion, everybody is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. There were reports of loud barking. The night of the crime or the 3 nights later? So many players and so many rumors. Yeah, go see my video on the long form. Go to the actual channel page and click video, and you'll see the suspect video. But that's not everybody, because, I can only make so long of the long form content or people won't watch. They'll be like, oh, this is too long. I don't want to watch it. Money follow her money. Yeah, I want to know. That's the number one thing I want to know, Kelly Bruder, is I want to know her checkbook and her finances, and I want to know about that second mortgage, and I want to know about the rumor about the unpaid property taxes. That is a rumor, not been verified. Although another YouTuber said that it was verified, but if I didn't verify it, it's not verified. I want to see the checkbooks. I want to see the bank statements. I want to know all the money that was coming in and all the money that was going out and who it was going out to. The son-in-law had more probable cause, I think. Money is always about money. And he could have been the getaway driver. Oh my God, my heart just aches to think about that. Always start with the money. Yes, always start with the money and the people closest to the family. Vicky Goggins says yes. Emerald Eyes. Seems odd that someone making $8 million a year would not have their mother's house completely paid off and the taxes just automatically paid each year. But we don't know what's going on with that. I don't know why the second loan in 2017. I don't know if the property tax rumor is true. I don't know why she didn't have a subscription on her Nest doorbell camera. Maybe if Savannah contributed financially, that money ended up going to somebody else. Did you ever think of that? The beginning of rumors where she disliked Tomato and tried to talk Annie from the relationship since high school. Well, I think Annie, she was married to somebody else before. She hasn't been married to Tomato that long, as far as I know. And he was in Italy. But I don't know at what point he moved to Tucson. Lori Smith, I wish Cajun Navy would go to the Bahamas for Lynette Hooker. Yeah, that's an interesting one. The house is well cared for. That's what I've heard. You ought to do the Duggars until more evidence comes in. Change it up a little. I have done some videos on the Duggars. Yeah, we could have a whole channel just on the Duggars, but all of their actions are just very sickening to me. It's not something I like to discuss, essay against kids. Very disturbing. Emerald Eyes, but so is, the kidnapping or abduction or the unaliving of an 84-year-old woman. Can I go out on a limb and say, why would someone making $8 million a year would not also have paid off a home for her sister? I don't know. Maybe her sister was a lazy F, who knows? They were high school lovers and goth. Things are getting interesting. I don't know. That whole angle was just really kind of weird. Lori Smith, if Nancy would have had life alert, she could have pushed the button and had EMS dispatched immediately. Yeah, but apparently when she was in her bed at night asleep, she had her hearing aids off and they were in the chargers, and she couldn't hear anything until they were like literally on top of her, dragging her from her bed. Nancy probably did not tell Savannah or refused help with her other children. Old people are stubborn, yeah. And proud. I know if I had children, especially with everything I've been through medically, I wouldn't want to have to, call them up on the phone and say, hey, I have stage 3 cancer and mama's not going to make it and I need money now. No, that's not what I'd want to do. My friend I mentioned earlier from Sarasota, Florida, she was the one that pushed me into the GoFundMe, and she set the whole thing up because I just oh God, I can't do that. But then I had to explain to people in my profession, people in Cali, which is our state organization for California Association of Licensed Investigators, I have to explain why I'm not available to work your cases right now. This is what's going on. And let me tell you, the law enforcement community and the detective community was really there for me. And my friend Lisa, she's never closed that account. And somebody here on YouTube actually sent me a message saying, "Hey, I was trying to check out your GoFundMe and the links weren't working." I was like, "Huh?" Like, I don't think anybody's contributed to that in a couple of years, but I went and I set it up, and right after I did and I made sure it was reconnected, somebody sent me a donation. So, but that was a very, very hard thing for me to accept, that I was going to have to accept the kindness and generosity of strangers to be able to focus more on my treatment rather than my financial survivorship. Like, you don't want to have to worry about stuff like that. But I can see why she would be proud and she wouldn't want, people to help her, and that she wouldn't call Savannah like, "Hey, can I have some money?" Because, your sister's siphoning away my funds. Like, I don't know how her finances are set up, her bank accounts, her property. I've never done a title search. Rumor is Nancy Guthrie found discrepancies with her trust. They are now getting financial information on the Duggars. It looks like a few others to be taken down. I believe that, Kathy Mowry. I think a few others are going to be taken down. Kelly Bruner says, "I want to see the Uber recording." You know what? If there's ever a trial on this, we're going to be able to see a lot of things. Kelly Bruner, "It's a smart way to do it. That is what Sarah and I do. Keeps it safe and growing when the market is doing well." Oh, Kathy! Oh, that's so sweet of you. I will be sending the ring light on Friday. Yes, I've already replaced one, but I could certainly use a second one. Kimberly, I wonder if they were gamblers. Do you mean Annie and Tomato? I've heard that, but I've heard the same thing about the sheriff's the Sheriff Bananas. Don't know. That's why I would do a deep dive on everybody's finances in this. A simple gal at heart. I did it for many years, and my mom was easily manipulated. My siblings always gutted me for doing well, but I busted my backside to amass what I had. Yeah. I've chosen to work my entire career. That was very important to me because my mom was, she was from that generation where a lot of moms stayed home, but then we were also, where I was raised in like the 70s, a lot of moms were going back, and there was, equal rights amendment, and, remember Helen Reddy, "I am woman, hear me roar." And people always like ragged on me, especially junior high school and high school, like, "Hey, why does your mom not work?" Or, "Hey, what the heck's wrong with your little sister? What's wrong with her? How come she stares at me funny?" Or I always heard like, knocks against my parents. My dad was an alcoholic, but functional. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. My sister had issues from birth, and I got so tired of the knocks, and I decided at a very early age that I was going to work for everything I had, and if I ever wanted something, I would have to buy it myself. I couldn't rely on anybody else, and that was more important to me than getting married and having a family. I mean, I've certainly had, romantic relationships with men in my life, but I have not been married. I don't have any children. I just focused hard on working. Whereas, my sister, she focused on multiple marriages, multiple kids, a family life. But, when things haven't gone so well, she doesn't have anything to fall back on. So I think you kind of gotta balance the scales a little bit. But, if I had kids, I would never have been able to go out and do the career that I did. It's not a 9-to-5 job. And then once you get your business, it's like Sherwood Swartz told me during a lunch, like, now you're not just the detective working the cases anymore. Now you're the executive producer. And I can see why, one sister might be against the other sister, like, "Hey, give me some money." And, "Hey, Mom, can you ask Savannah for some money because we need some money?" Or, I'd like to know all about that. But even if she was contributing to them financially, meaning the mom contributing to Annie and Tommaso, that still doesn't mean that they had her kidnapped and unalived. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I can't emphasize that enough. Good song, says Kathy Mowry. I remember that. I was really little when that came out. So maybe Savannah Guthrie was helping, but Nancy Guthrie was helping. But Nancy felt bad for Annie. Maybe. Kimberly says, they're building a new casino at Grant Road in Oracle. I thought the law was casinos have to be on the Indian reservations. Grant and Oracle right in the Tucson city limits. Oh, I didn't know that. I know that, like here in California, it has to be on Indian land. Hello, Ibrahim, my friend. Nancy Guthrie supported Cameron and visited him often. Her good friend came out recently and stated the daughters were not close. Well, I can see why. Thank you so much, my friend. Nathan, welcome in. Well, I've been on an hour and 5 minutes, and that was the first donation today. Thank you so much. And nobody here is required to donate. I just appreciate the views. But let me tell you, I don't think I'd be receiving that first check at the end of May if it weren't for the donations. It's kind of holding up the channel right now. The donations, even Trisha's suggestion at the YouTube wish list on Amazon, that's been a help. Kelly, thanks for sharing that. I suspect they're not as close as Savannah Guthrie wants us to think. Absolutely, because remember, as a detective, I am a reader of body language. And I didn't like the body language at all between the family members during those very scripted, recorded, pre-recorded statements. Didn't like the body language amongst any of them as a united front. That was scripted to look like we are a united front. The visit to the house before Savannah went back to New York, where Annie laid down the card, something about the burning embers or the ashes or some weird crap. You know, that was all for the cameras. That we are a united front. But you know what? What Savannah's thinking about from a conscious standpoint and what she may be, struggling with from a subconscious standpoint could be two different things. A simple yell at heart. Oh, you don't have to do that, but if you would like to, and there's a lot of items that are only like, $3 or $4. You can go to the homepage of my channel and go to the channel description, and you'll see all my links. I have Whatnot. Yeah, if you've ever wanted to do online shopping from the privacy of your own home, Whatnot will give you $15 if you sign up using my code. I have an eBay store. There's not much in it anymore. I still have the GoFundMe for the cancer up there, not for the donations, but because I want people to be able to read the whole history of, if somebody wants to do a deep dive on me and see that this is all legit, you can read about it. Lisa wrote a lot of the updates. I wrote a few, but I was in a very dark place when I wrote those. And then it was my wonderful new mod here, Trisha, who's just saved my bacon from day one, me doing the lives. She was the one, and others had suggested, and it just didn't click. And Trisha was like, no, you need to set this up. In fact, that's how I got the microphone for the desktop that I've waited 5 years to purchase. That it's meant the world to me. And then Sue sent me the socks, and another Sue sent the was it Sue that sent the diet ginger beer, which is ginger ale. Yeah, I drink a lot of diet ginger ale and ginger beer, and it looks like beer bottles, but no, I don't consume any alcohol. And I certainly wouldn't do it on YouTube, but no, I take too many heart meds. So, but yeah, nobody has to contribute anything. But if somebody wants to send a super chat or they want to see a video after the fact, now when YouTube reloads the lives, it takes a couple of days, 24 to 48 hours, for them to reload the chat, at which time the super thanks video will pop up. But the older lives, or just the videos that are on the video tab, heck, even the shorts, there's a super thanks button. If anybody wants to do that, they can, but it's not required. That's very important for you guys to know. I never did this for the money, but I never expected to have, I think I've got between $3,000 and $5,000 worth of expenses because I started this December 27th, 2020. the editing software, the music, the equipment, that I've just burned through. And thank you, Kathy, for suggesting the ring light. I appreciate that. I'd forgotten all about that. Let me know when you send it, because I go to the mailbox, usually about once a week. But if I know something's waiting there, like I think I'm going to go tomorrow because somebody else sent me a couple more items and I'm going to go pick them up. And I'm going to show them to you next time I go live. Savannah is falling apart and neither of them even attempts to comfort her. Yeah, I'm very good at body language, Simple Gal at Heart, because of my detective career and interviewing thousands and thousands of people. And I'm not saying that anybody's guilty or anybody is responsible for this within the family, but I have not liked the body language of Annie and Tommaso from day one. And remember, they, according to Savannah, were her primary caregivers. And they may have done a wonderful job. I mean, she's 84 years old. But, maybe they haven't. There's so much that we, the public, we don't know. I'm not going to point the finger at anybody. I do have my suspect list on the video that I put out, the long form. Go watch it. Hit that super thanks button if you have to, that'll help me keep going with the channel. But everybody is innocent until proven guilty. This is a 500-piece puzzle, and I've talked till I'm blue in the face that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. In a court of law, we're not accusing anything or anybody. Everything is alleged. We find things that are confirmed. We say things that are not confirmed yet, and I'll say this is confirmed or this is not confirmed. I'll put pinned comments in my videos like, hey, we just found out this. This is a correction on this. I'll say it in the next video like, hey, we need to do some housekeeping here. Like, I have to be very, very careful about what I say. But please see the long-form content videos. There are other crime situations that we've talked about. I've talked about the Duggars. I've talked about that missing family from 1958 where the case was, more of it was solved in April of 2026. I talk about missing MH370. I haven't made any JonBenet videos, and I don't plan on doing so because it's still an open and active homicide investigation. And some of the players involved are still out there, so I got to be super careful about that. But there's a lot of videos. True crime, there's celebrity homes, there's my animals, there's planes, trains, and automobiles, there's news. There's all kinds of stuff on my channel. There's something for everyone. But please go to the main page and read about me in my bio. And click all the links if you want to. Even if you just want to click them because you want to learn more about how I got to this point of making a YouTube channel. But please know that it's never been and it's still not about the money. Emerald Eye says, on that first statement, when all three siblings were there, it was like they were playing Twister. Yes! It was such an awkward placement of the hands. I know! Like, oh my God, you've got it going. I'm trying to think of a word. Like, you're very observant. That's what I was trying to say, Emerald Eyes. That's the Emerald Eyes. Kelly Bruner, why did they keep Tomato quiet the entire time? Good question. Ginger is good for the gut. Yes. I need some more diet ginger beer. Every time I place a Bonds order, which here is basically our Safeway, but they call them the Bonds here, but they're all by the same company. Well, actually, Albertson owns them now, but they are always sold out on the diet ginger beer. Ugh. And I think Amazon has figured that out, that a lot of the stores are always sold out of that. And, it's imported all the way from Australia. And now with, the price of fuel, Amazon has raised their prices on the diet ginger beer. A Simple Gal at Heart says, yes, I sent some items to the Juice. It just met his beautiful family today. He didn't set it up correctly, so they sent me the stuff. Oh, you mean on Amazon? That happened with the person that bought the socks, and then she realized that they were going to her instead of me, and so she canceled the order to her, and then like just bought them directly and sent them to had them sent to my mailing address. I didn't know it was that complicated. I'm just learning about that now. Kelly Bruner, they walk upstairs, looks like someone should recognize this, and the bend at the hip, that is hard to change. Kathy Mallory says, look at his eyes, to me they look that of evil. He's kind of a intimidating looking dude, isn't he? Yes, the eyes are dead. I'm kind of more creeped out about Annie, and she may be a wonderful person. I've never met her, but the whole witchcraft thing really, it doesn't set well with me. But once again, doesn't make her a suspect. I could see myself more aligned with Savannah just because, of her legal background. That was during the first interview, plus remember they all sat way back. Yeah, they were behind Savannah. She was obviously the leader, but it was all scripted, it was all recorded, and they were being told what to say. Why did they hide their face? That is an indication of shame or deception, especially when they drove off their property before the car was towed by law enforcement, and they were all like covering their faces up with their hoodies. That's a sign of deceit, deception, or shamefulness. Coming from Missouri, that will be a while. No problem, Kathy. Just let me know. You can even send me a tracking, but you don't have to do that. Oh, Lori, that's interesting. I just watched an interview with Zach. Yeah, if you want to send me the link, I'd love to see that. aprildavispi@gmail. Kelly Bruner says, I have thoughts. He uses no facial expressions. That was a good movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Yeah, wasn't it? I remember the night I saw that because I had quite an interesting date that night. It was just a neighbor friend. We went out together and we went to an Italian restaurant, and some famous actress from like before our time walked in, and then one of the guys sitting with her was in one of the previews of the movie, and I just remember that very well. Emerald Eyes. Kathy, you have seen Monk's videos where he reverses the infrared and the eyes look so haunting, and I swear he never blinks. Oh my god. Albertsons owns Kroger's too. I know, Emerald, they are scary. Check your mail next week. A simple gala at heart. I will. There was a guy that sent me this, and I still don't know who he is. And this is like $100. And he has sent apparently 2 more gifts from that list, but I don't get any of the tracking, and I don't know who he is. I mean, I know who his YouTube name is, but I don't know like his name, like who he is, like on here, because people, your Google user ID could be, Mickey Mouse. It can be a different name, and so I don't know who he is, and I keep thanking him, but I don't want to say his name publicly unless he sends me an email, and and then only he and I would know that name. I'm not going to say the name publicly. So if I get an email from someone saying, hey, this is so-and-so, and I sent you this, this, and this, then I'm going to know, like, oh, okay, well, please say something in the chat. But there's a lot of people that watch the chat in the background. Maybe they just listen in the background. Kelly Bruner says, full moon night. You mean tonight or the night of the crime? Oh, full moon night means something to Wiccans, yes. And it was a full moon the night of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. And this is creepy, but Kathy Mallory says witchcraft is satanic. Kelly Bruner says deception. I agree, Kelly. This breaks my soul. Someone knows. You know, at my age and my health and this time of my life, I hate being kept awake at night thinking about this. Oh, I didn't see that, Kathy. I've loved My Cousin Vinny. I laugh every time I watch it. And I know that was supposed to be a great movie, but I've never seen it. Kelly says, on another channel, an interviewer asked someone, and they said they turned in a nephew because he fit the gait and build, and here money talks. Well, I turned somebody in too that I think it could be, but I'm not 100%. And that first call didn't go well with the FBI, so I made a second call. And, if it turns out that it's him, I'm going to be ringing dingy dingy to Savannah. I'm going to get a hold of her somehow and say, hey, I've said this. I even have the dates in my phone. I have screenshots of the dates I called, how many minutes I was on the phone, and the number that I called. Phoenix is dark. My family lives there, and I dislike the dark nights. I had a family member that lived in a house once in northwest Las Vegas, and it's away from the Strip. And I was shocked at how dark it was and how quiet at night. And in the middle of the night, you can hear the planes, that are going between Nellis and the Tonopah Test Range and Area 51, because that's only 80 miles outside of Vegas. So you hear air traffic, and it's not the traffic that's going into Harry Reid International. It's like the military traffic. But it's just black as black, and we just don't see that in LA. Oh, Tippo. Did somebody take Tippo out? I have no time for your shenanigans today, Tippo. Kelly says black is black. Curmudge, gotta run. Adam got a snow machine stuck down by the tracks. Oh no. Need to help him get out. Talk to you soon, April. Hugs from us. Hugs back to you. Thanks for coming in, Curmudge. Kelly says, my son has acreage in Iowa. I never leave at night. Oh my gosh. You can probably hear the corn stalks sprouting at night in Iowa. But gosh, I bet it would be a lot less expensive to live there than here in California. I bet it would be very peaceful. I think of the movie, the baseball film, Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner. Good night, Jane. Kelly says, black is black. Yes, it is. Yeah, one time in LA, I lived here through the Northridge earthquake, which, by the way, the epicenter was never Northridge, it was Reseda, but it had already been gone down in history as the Northridge quake. And I was in Studio City, and the whole power grid went out across the entire city, like that scene in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where the whole city just goes black. And that had never happened in LA my entire life. And we walked outside and looked up. We saw something called the Milky Way. Like people were calling 911 saying there's something very strange in the sky. What's going on? Because there was this horrific, catastrophic earthquake that caused many, many fatalities. Like 60-some people lost their lives, and buildings had totally collapsed. And it was awful. And then to walk outside and look up and go, wow, it was just the most spectacular thing I had ever seen in my life. Deer and cattle at any time on the roads. We have a lot of deer here, but no cattle in LA. Quiet, and the wind is great through the trees. That would be peaceful. Oh, you were in Northridge. You were in Lancaster when the Northridge quake took place. Well, you were much safer out there than in the San Fernando Valley, that's for sure. The Milky Way, yeah. Literally 911 got hundreds of or dozens of phone calls about that. Like, what's in the sky? Yeah, it's totally different world. But it's so interesting. That's why I like to chat with you guys and hear, what state you're coming in from, or what cities you're coming in from, or what countries even you're coming in from. We get sonic booms from Offutt Air Force Base. Offutt or Offutt? I haven't heard of that Air Force Base. Yeah, we get a few out here. We used to get it from the space shuttle landing at Edwards. Hey, Will Byers. We have felt like quakes. Yeah, I hear that there was one the other day that shook part of the South and the Midwest. Bellevue, Nebraska. Oh, wow. I don't know many people from Nebraska. It's funny because I've been to almost every state in the country, but I don't know anything about Nebraska, and I've never been to the Pacific Northwest, and that's where I've always wanted to visit the most, like Oregon and Washington and Idaho, Montana. The animals feel it. I was born in Nebraska. It's so cool to have all these different people coming in. Offutt, if I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, is in Nebraska. I'm going to look that up. We get some sonic booms about twice a month in Missouri. Fort Wood is about 20 miles away. Interesting. Offutt, is that how to pronounce it? Okay. Offutt Air Base. Cool. Ozark Wood's pretty dark too. Had a trailer cabin, no electric outhouse. Wow. Wow. I think I hear Amazon out there. Yeah, and you know what? Last night when I was charging everything, my new phone that's not even paid for yet, with the case and that special, seal that they put on the screen, it fell off the counter, and I tried to catch it and I missed. And I think the phone is all right. You guys are obviously able to see and hear me, but the very expensive screensaver that I had to buy from Apple, which is more expensive than the ones from Amazon, because I didn't want it to break between getting out of the store and getting home, that cracked in the bottom right corner. And I have had to place yet another order from Amazon. And I'm like, dang, I haven't even got the first bill yet for all the, the extras you have to pay for in the store. And then they charge you like the taxes and, it costs, what, $200-300 just to get out of the store. And then the rest of it is financed for like 36 months. And I'm like, 36 months? I don't know if I'm going to live for 36 months. I haven't even paid off the iPad replacement yet, and my phone dropped. But I am thankful that the actual screen itself didn't crack. Fort Wood is Army. I'll look that up. I've heard of Fort Hood, but never Fort Wood. You can't tell it on the video. Thank you. I was going to ask you guys that. Like, is there a sound issue or is there it's always something. And not being able to have that 6-figure PI business anymore and go out every day to catch bad guys and to pay all my bills. This whole cancer thing, it sucks. It's been devastating. And I've really been hit hard by the news. I mentioned this in another video about Mindy Cohn, and they've never said, like, her current situation. Is it a recurrence of her first cancer or is it a separate cancer? But I since heard somebody say, and I don't know if they were just guessing and pulling this out of their rear end, but I've heard now that it was a recurrence. But I haven't heard that from Mindy Cohn publicly. But if it was a recurrence of breast cancer, that makes me very sad and very discouraged, because I look up to other cancer survivors, especially breast cancer survivors, and go, well, hey, this person's still here, this person's still here, this person's still here. But then sometimes, a lot of times it comes back. So it's been a tough week, just having that on the back of my mind. Like, let's pray for Mindy Cohn. Let's pray that Nancy Guthrie is found. Let's pray for Savannah. My Temu energy. What does that mean? What is Temu energy? Oh gosh. My children's dad has liver cancer. They removed 90% and now tumors are all over again. See, that sucks. I had a grandparent that died from cancer in the first grade, when I was in the first grade, when I was in the second grade, when I was in the fourth grade. My dad passed from cancer. One of my favorite little bunny rabbits passed from cancer. It's 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 in my DNA, but yet my sister never got it, and my only two biological cousins, they never got it, and they're a lot older than me. So it's like born under a bad sign, I guess. It's in the food. I think when my mom was a child, she said we never had all these cancers. My son cannot drink the well water. I think it is in our food supply. It's in chemicals and everything in our house. My husband loves splunking in the South Missouri caves. I forbid him after we started dating. He actually had 2 flashlights go out. Luckily, he had flares. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to be cave chasing. Useful not to soak in runoff from farms. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and the pesticides. When I lived in the South, there was a lot of pesticides in the homes, just to control, the creepy crawler population. And there, in that particular town, there were a lot of cancer victims. And that was in the day where cancer wasn't as prominent as today. And I think it was the pesticides. Because in California, the building, like the apartment building, they spray the outside like once a month, but they don't have to spray inside the units. Airport used to run off fuel into Carter Lake, and my dad would not let us fish there or swim. Exactly. He worked for United. Yeah, I think the toxins are everywhere. I wish we could all live forever, but you know what? I don't want to live old and forever if I'm not going to feel well. I just want to feel well again, and I'm not there yet. But you know what? YouTube has helped me a lot because I've met all my new friends, and I've learned so much about, I've looked up things on the map. I'm pretty good with geography, but I've heard about cities and places I've never been, and tonight we're talking about Offutt Air Force Base and Fort Wood. Like, I'll look all that up. It'll be cool. So let's pray for Nancy. Let's pray for Savannah. I don't know her, and I know this sounds inappropriate, but I just want to wrap my arms around her. And I'd love to have her contact me, and I would love just to, she could come here to LA if she wants, and I would just like to go through a list of A to Z, put a new set of eyes on this and say, okay, have you done this? Have you done this? Have they done this? And, show me everything that's been done. I hope she's got PIs working for her. Gosh, let's pray that she does. Fort Leonard Wood. I will look that up, Kathy. Well, thank you to everybody that came in today. I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for some of my new subscribers. Let's, if I could get it this high, let's build it up to 3,000. Who would have ever thought? Now I'm at 2636. And for the big YouTubers, they're laughing at that. But for me, it just means the world. They need to reinvestigate. Yes, Savannah Guthrie has her PIs involved. I sure hope so. And I hope they're good ones, because not all PIs are good. Great chat. I am impressed. Well, feel free to watch the long form content videos too. Go to the playlist and just hit play all, because I really need to get the views up on the long form videos to keep this thing going. I won't be able to survive on the super chats alone. So thank you so much. Thank you for all that has sent the gifts through the wish list. Thank you, Tricia. Thank you, Curmudge. I know he had to go rescue Adam by the train track, but if he's watching on the replay, thank you, Curmudge. Thank you, Tricia. Thank you for everybody that's helped support me through this YouTube journey. Oh, thank you, Kelly. You're Kelly number 4. Now, I'm just saying in the order that they came in. There was Kelly Ray, Kelly Sullivan, Kelly Alley, and she's pretty new, but I don't see her, in all the chats, and now Kelly Bruner. So wow, another Kelly to add to the list. I like that name, Kelly. There's a lot of A's and K's in my family. So I will talk to everybody later. If anything were to break on this case, I'll be happy to come back on the air, but I don't expect anything to break on Sunday evening. So everybody just enjoy your Sunday. I think I'm going to make something to eat and relax. Good night.